Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Real Life, Real Love. I am Sarah Michelle, and this is Hayley Henderson. We're going to be talking to you about online dating today. So, if you have done online dating before and you've been frustrated with it, it's been challenging, or maybe you've never done it and you keep considering it, but it feels really daunting, we're just going to kind of let the conversation evolve organically today. So, I don't have specific talking points for you, but we will be talking about online dating. Both of us have plenty of personal experience and then having spoken with clients on it before. So let's see. Well, I guess I'll introduce myself. So as Sarah, I am Sarah. Gosh. I'm a sex, love, and intimacy coach. So I focus on helping men and women get into long-term, more soulful, connected relationships we're looking for here. And I also help couples with sex and intimacy, and women with stepping into their feminine energy, men stepping into their masculine energy, that sort of stuff. And then Hayley, did you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Hayley Henderson. I'm a style coach. My strongest emphasis on how clothes are a communication tool, which I think is really important for this topic and what I've learned a lot about, especially if you're a woman dating a man. Men are so visual and they pick up cues and subtle bits of information that we just may not even know is visible. And it's not like a thing where you go, oh my gosh, I have to worry about like what I'm wearing and how I'm doing it. It's actually just more a recentering of who am I? What are my values? How do they function? Not going out or going on dates and forcing yourself when you're not feeling your best, because that's not the right communication and you don't wear your best clothes. So I think there's a lot of information in what you wear and how that communicates to a potential partner, a potential business partner, somebody at the supermarket, your children. Like, it does stuff for us without us speaking. Within 1/10 of a second, your clothes have spoken and provided information to that other person. And innately, the other person has picked up all of that information before you can like even utter a word. It's very powerful.
Yeah, you mentioned visual, men being visual. We should start there because I think that's one thing that's super important in an online dating profile is having good pictures and a variety of good pictures. I'm not a proponent of having professional pictures done and put on there. I know that in larger cities, it can get competitive and a lot of people are doing it. So you kind of feel like you have to in order to stand out from the crowd. So if you really feel like you need to do it, I wouldn't stop you from doing it. But I prefer real candid pictures because they let the other person know who you are. To me, when you do these really specialized online dating profiles, like I'll help people set up their profiles, but I don't do it for them. I don't say like, I don't do this interview process and then make sure that it's perfectly copyrighted. I'm certainly not lining them up with a photographer to get pictures taken and stuff like that because I think it's really important that you show up as who you naturally are. You're going to go on this date, they're going to find out who you are. And
Yeah.
guess what? If it works, you're going to move into this part. Eventually, they're going to know what your morning breath smells like. They're going to know what you look like when you wake up in the morning. They're going to know what, you know what I mean? Like they're going to know all of those parts of you. And so I don't think there's any point in like putting on this show at the beginning because I personally feel like even without online dating, that's a huge issue in dating is that people take these first few weeks or months and put on this show and they can't maintain that level. And the other person comes to expect it. They stop maintaining it and then the relationship falls apart. You know, like it's a big pet peeve of mine that like men who go on the first few dates and they pay for the dates and they open doors and all this sort of stuff. And then as you start to move into the relationship, it's like, it's your turn to pay. Or, well, I don't need to hold you all night long anymore because, you know, we've been in this relationship for a few months. Now I need to get my sleep. And it's like, what? I thought you enjoyed cuddling me. You were just toughing it out. Like, so I don't love that sort of stuff. But I do agree that men are visual more so than women. And it's important to have stuff that stands out. And I'm always looking for pictures and stuff that will show my face close up so they get a good image of who I am. Yes, eye contact. I'm also looking for pictures that show my full body so that they have an idea, something recent. I don't like putting up for myself or when someone else does, like old pictures, from back in college and stuff. I don't care about that because I'm trying to figure out who you are now. In fact, the type of person I'm trying to attract in, I probably won't even relate to who they were 10 years ago, right? Because they want this person that is moving forward, that is growing and developing. So I don't care a whole lot about who they were until we're far enough into the relationship that we're having those deeper conversations and they're letting me know about their history because it's relevant to something we're talking about.
Yes. And I
Right?
think it's to have that realistic lifestyle element of photos. Like if you don't go hiking all the time and it's not a thing, don't write it in your bio and don't do the pictures of it. It's like saying I go to proms all the time, but I actually go once a year, but I like advertise it as though it's like my weekly thing. And I've got a lot of comments in the past from men that I've gone on a date with have gone, "You're exactly like your profile." I was like, "Thanks." And is that weird? And it turns out it is. A lot of women will, you know, and men are aware of it. So if you are wanting to step into the arena of just, taking like some eye contact photos, taking some full body shots, ones where you can be at a party, you can be doing things on your best occasion, that's fine. It's just that it's got to be relevant and recent. So they're introduced to the person that they're looking at and making decisions based on before meeting you, because that's part of how they make their decisions. Like people can get really upset if they want about men being such visual creatures with visual cues, or you can just use that to your advantage. Men in so many situations can, they know, oh man, that man's going to get angry and we should get out of here. Or, there's so many things that they pick up on that you can use to your advantage. And they know when you're not very well based on you always seem to put on those same track pants or something. And you're like, how do you know? And he'll go, oh, because you always put on those track pants. You're like, oh, so they notice things. Sometimes they just don't verbalize it or we don't ask the question. And I think it's back to the, sorry, I've got hay fever today, so I'm a little bit sniffy. So it's important to bring it back to the original intent of having a profile that looks like you. Yes, you can have your best version of pictures and don't recommend necessarily putting your worst ones on there, but it is important to portray that realistic piece of you, the one where this is your genuine smile, you genuinely love pink, in my case you genuinely like sparkles, you genuinely like to dress up, or you genuinely are a sweats and trackie, like whatever is the thing, you can bring and weave that in, because a man, if he's making those decisions on these visual cues and on the text in your profile, he's going to be making those decisions on that. And when he meets you and you're nothing like that, he has to change his decision. And it's not a judgment on you. It's not like, oh, you can't judge, reality when you see it. It's like, but he made the decision based on what he was looking at on the profile. And if it was high school pictures, if it was hiking all the time and stuff that you don't actually do, he's made a decision on a person that doesn't exist. And you can't get mad at him for that. And it's fascinating that it happens. And men are just blown away that it keeps happening all the time, to the degree that they're a little bit on guard. They're just like, are you really that? Send me a picture right now. Like that dumbass stuff. Sorry.
I just had a guy that I connected with online dating and we talked for a few days. And then he asked me, he said, would you be interested in meeting each other? I know online dating is a little bit different for women if it's too soon. I understand you want to keep talking. He said, but I've been catfished so many times. I kind of like to just meet in person and know if there's a connection or not. I was like, I totally get it, which I'm always one to hop straight to a date because I agree. Like there's nothing like meeting the person and feeling into their energy, hearing their voice, like that sort of stuff. I wanted to mention though, you were talking about like, don't put up fancy pictures if that isn't your thing. And so I try to make sure that the pictures I'm choosing as much as possible are conversation starters so that they might ask a question about it or something. And I have one of me in a fancy gown inside a limo. And no, I'm not riding in limos all the time. But the fun part about that is I organize that limo trip because I love to get dressed up and I love to celebrate Christmas. So as soon as they ask me about that, I get to start telling them all this stuff about myself. And you can probably tell even there, as I started to tell you, I love dressing up and I look like my energy shifts and changes because it's so natural for me. So putting something up like that is awesome. I also put up pictures. The app that I use only allows 6 pictures at a time. So I put a picture of me boating. It's kind of like, I feel like there's a double edge to that picture, because part of it is I'm in a bathing suit. So I attract a lot of low level men that leave shitty comments, and I have to really like take deep breaths and not take that on, that because you start to feel materialized is the word that's coming to my mind. That is not the word at all. Objectified.
Yes.
And it's like, come on, like I put up a really good profile and I have all these other pictures there too. And the only thing you're going to do is like see how quickly you can get me into bed because I put up a bikini photo. But it's also a good conversation though, because I do like to boat, and it is full body, so you can see what I look like in person, but I'm also on vacation in that one. So I get to tell you about my vacation and where I was and how much fun I had and why I was there and who I was with and all that sort of stuff. So it starts a conversation.
But it's also a real part of you. Like, you like these things. So as much as I'm like, don't put stuff up there, that is not your standard lifestyle, but you've strategically chosen these things because they portray a thing that is going to show a piece of your personality, and it shows a piece of the lifestyle that is a standard expectation for you. And so a man, this is why it's important to understand this, when a man's like looking and judging, or a woman, to understand like what we're looking at. So I always try to remind people, when you're looking at online dating profiles, or you're first on a date with a man, or you're at a single event and you're, basically like candy shopping, like what is it that you're judging this person on? And don't get upset about it. Just go, what is it? Am I judging them? For me, I am absolutely judging them in their outfit. Like, if I see a full sporting man's profile, like he's all about sports and it's all he talks, I have to figure out, do I like that? Ugh, is that my, because that's standard, because men are used to just being themselves, and so they won't know how to like squash that. We are used to it, and we know if we can judge if we can fit in or not. They're not. They just go, is it or is it not? Okay, and move on. And we have to discern ourselves, like looking at their profile, and realize they're going to judge us the same way, because like the world is a reflection of you in an easy like nutshell. And so if you're looking and judging an outfit, straight out of the gate, they're going to probably judge your outfit, because the guys that I have been on dates with in the past, they judge me on my outfit, and it's always a fascinating conversation because they don't know what they're walking into with me. And they're always just like, a second, and it becomes like a thing where they're like, oh, what should I wear on my first date? And I'm like, are you gonna pay me as your stylist to help you? Is this what the thing is? Like, there is an interesting conversation there where I can talk about like what I do, what I love. But also you can set the standard in those conversations too, of boundaries and what's okay and what's not and stuff, and have a bit of fun with it. And I get to display my conversation piece about how I need you as a person to show up wearing the clothes that you like, because I'm going to see that. I can't tell you what to wear, especially if, we're in the early stages of dating. I don't know you enough for the personality wise, especially if we haven't done like a styling session. And it's important for me to just see the real person there, not the person that I've like dolled out. And that's a conversation that a lot of men are not used to having about clothes and what they wear. And then also a lot of men are not used to having the conversations about like, they have a lifestyle, and there is this element of not as much what is your lifestyle and what are your expectations as a woman, and you can bring that to the table, you can bring that to the conversation. Like, if you see something in somebody's profile that you think is something you want to work with, you can bring your lifestyle into the conversation. And this is how you make it at the very beginning part of the communication piece, that you're not just gonna be his addition to his life. I'm gonna guess the people watching this are not that kind of person. And you bring a lot to the table. You bring personality, you bring your career, you bring your children, you bring your family expectations. Like, you bring these things, and you can have that conversation straight away, especially if it's something that was in his profile that intrigued you, and you can bring it up and start the communication fast, not just be like, well, this is what I want, this is how we're going to do it, and this is my life, and you need to fit in or fuck off. Like, it can't be that way. It be, how would you speak to somebody that you love?
Yeah,
Straight.
sorry,
Like,
finish up and then I'll.
on the like, I think on first dates and getting to know somebody in the initial stages, speak to them like you love them, and speak to them with like respect and honor and appreciation, and look at them that way. And you will figure out, a lot of people don't do that, but you'll also figure out, how do you say it, it's like, you go from interviewing this person to meeting this person. It's not, I mean, you're sort of interviewing, but more you're actually just, what is this person made of? Like, what are the things? You've judged them on this thing. You can ask these conversations, but if you bring love into this, instead of like, this is my checklist and I just need to check this off, he's going to super appreciate that you're just not trying to either slot into his life or figure out like how to mash your puzzle pieces together. You're actually just bringing love to the table. And this is what we've talked about in previous episodes, where it helps him to provide that structural safe container, because you just put love all over the table. You just adored something that he did. You appreciated something that he shared. And he is just going to be like, I need to protect this woman at all costs. And it like activates that masculine in him. And you've done nothing but just like surrender and soften yourself and just speak to him as though you cherish him already, as though you love him already. It is a bit of like a preview of the show of life, which is so important. But a lot of people forget that in the early stages, first dates and early stages, like speaking to somebody as though they matter and they are part of your life, not disposable. Men do get upset about it, that piece, like being disposable, and that's a whole other conversation. But I
We
think it's,
have like two really big things there. And I think one of them is just that the first date, or even getting to know each other online before you get to the first date, can feel like an interview process, and you need to just stop it. You just need to stop it. That I personally feel like the reason so many people get into that interview mode is because they bring in all this trauma and baggage and hurt from their past. And so they're like, okay, all of these things are my red flags and all of these things are my green flags. So let me ask all the questions and figure out where they are on here, and then I'll decide whether to go forward. It's like, no, like, you don't do that naturally in life. When you're getting to know a new coworker, when you're bringing in a new client, when you're, making a new friend, whatever it is, like, you let it evolve naturally. And you need to do that here too. Like, take a deep breath and let that anxiety go. It's okay if you spend 4 dates before you see the red flag that makes you stop. Because the thing is men are going to show them. Men are going to show it no matter what. I went on a date this past week, and the guy, I didn't ask him at all about married, divorced, whatever. I knew he had some kids because we had talked back and forth. But I don't want it to feel like an interview process. So I'm like, I'm not going to be like, oh, were you married? How long? I don't know why people do this. You were married? How long? Who initiated the divorce? Why did you get divorced? It's like, hey, shut the fuck up. It's none of your business. I'm here now. Please judge me on who I am now. Because you know what? The person I was 3 years ago when I got divorced, the person I was in that marriage is not who I'm showing up as today. So you don't really need to know that stuff about me. But anyway, I go on this date, and he naturally tells me through conversation. I had to kind of piece it together because it's not like it all came out in a row. But one, he's still married. He's in the process of getting divorced. 2, he's still living with her. 3, she's moving away for medical school, and he's going to be a full-time dad for the next however many years that it takes her to get through medical school and come back. I'm like, so those were all big things that were like, okay, deal breaker, done. I'm not dating you again. It didn't make him a bad guy. In fact, he was very kind on the date. He stepped into his masculine energy in many ways. So there were good things about him. But that's not where I'm at. That's not the type of relationship I'm looking for, that sort of thing. which I do want to like pause for a second and say he wasn't ready for the type of relationship I'm looking for, but that's not to say he can't be out there dating. I believe anyone can be out dating at any point as long as they're honest about where they're at in the process. That way, the other person has the choice of whether to engage in it or not. I do not believe in this whole you need to be single for 6 months between or year or whatever these different, like, there's this no man diet for 6 months, someone is a proponent of and teaches. And it's not that I'm like against it. I just hate the specific time frame and stuff like that. I feel like you should be, as a feminine woman, be able to feel into this and move through it intuitively because we do learn so much through relationship and through dating and stuff. You never know if that's part of the puzzle that will help like propel you forward in your healing and in your growth to what you're actually meant for. The so that was the one thing, was the interview process. The other thing you brought up was, maybe I can't get back to it just yet. When it comes to my mind, I'll let you know. I know it's something about, okay, I'll drop it for now, and when it pops back into my mind, I'll bring it up. I was trying to, I need to take notes is what I need to do. But anyway, I also had a date yesterday that went super well. That was really nice. He showed up, and again, it didn't have to be an interview process, but he said some things naturally. He shared about his vehicle, which lets me know a little bit about him. Like, I'm not so good at vehicles that I can profile a person or something like that. But gave me an idea. And one of his things was, I first of all, I love truck rides. So as soon as he's like, I have a truck, I was like, sweet. And then he said, and I always keep lawn chairs in the back of my truck because you never know when you're gonna like just want to pull over next to the river and sit down and have a date in the back of the truck. And I was like, cha-ching. Perfect. That sounds wonderful. So people share more about themselves when they don't feel like they're in the hot seat. Because when you start to feel like you're being interviewed, right, you try to answer correctly. You try to figure out what the other person's trying to figure out about you because you feel like you're about to be eliminated.
It gives the man space to make up shit and be his best self. And like you were saying at the very beginning, it's like they build up to be this person of your expectations because you voice that, you allow them to be like, yes, no, or this or that. And then they can't, it's not sustainable because it's not them. Like so many people get let down by that unsustainable persona that they put on, and a lot of men do it to get what they want, and they're also taught that they can do it. They're not taught it's okay to just show up as you are, and if you just have conversations with them and just naturally just like hang out or go somewhere and do something as though they're a friend, and you bring love into the situation and just speak to them as though you respect them and cherish them, they will tell you all the things about them because they feel safe, because that's what that is, especially if they didn't feel safe with their mum, or if they used to feel safe with their mum. You're a feminine presence, and it can activate that stuff in him in a really nice way because it just, your voice, you're really nice. He's just like, oh, yeah. And, you know, and it helps him make decisions on is that the type of person that he wants to hang out with. Because if you're interviewing him and checking things off, that doesn't tell him what you're like to spend time with.
It puts you in your masculine energy too, because you're like up here. You're not just in the moment, feeling into the energy, allowing it to flow. Like yeah, I mean, interviewing is the perfect word because it feels like you're sitting down and going through this checklist so that you can make a decision.
Yeah. And sometimes you can't straight away. You have to go on instinct. Sometimes you can be like, I don't know what it was about your eyes, but like here we are on a date and like let's have these conversations. And like what I believe is once you feel like things are working out and you're figuring out if lifestyles are working and decisions and conversations and it's rolling, once you start stepping into the early stages of a relationship, the first month or so, because everybody's busy these days, face it, it takes a while to get to that point. Then I believe in having conversations about your morals and the things that are your highest priorities, like going through like what a relationship container looks like for you and having those communication pieces. You don't need that at first. You're allowed to, like, when you were younger, like when you were a teenager and you just gushed over he's really cute, or I like the way he puts his hair behind his ear, or whatever it was. I'm thinking like Backstreet Boys bowl cut, obviously. And
I love Nick Carter too. Still.
when you fell for that and you were interested and you were like, I want to be his girlfriend. Okay, I'm totally his girlfriend. He's going to be my boyfriend. And you made those decisions and then you got to know him and how good it was. You're allowed to do that now. No one said you can't. Both Sarah and I both definitely understand when you have limited time, short time frames, and to make decisions. But sometimes what you need is also what you need to give. Like, it's always the same thing. When you need more money, you need money to invest. When you are time poor, you need to figure out your time so you can have some. Like, it's the same thing. And so, like, I just think going with the flow and not being like, oh my God, I need to make this decision, and process of elimination so that I'm not wasting my time. Find ways, as we've discussed on previous episodes, about not having to go out on big expensive dates the first couple of times. If there's something that overwhelms you and concerns you, or if he's mentioned it, go for a walk, go on a coffee date. Like, if you're time poor and worried about these things and investing, just, you want to get to know this person. You want to look in their eyes. What is it like to be next to them? What is that, their energy and their presence? Like, because these are the things, like, at the end of the day, if you get into a relationship long term and you just like living your life, the things that you will do the most is be near them, is look into their eyes. It is the sound of their voice. It doesn't matter some of the finer details about it. It's, who is this person? And what is that energetic presence? And what would it be like to have a habitual life with this person? And can you stand their voice? Can you stand the way they do or do not do their facial hair? Like, these elements of things, not like hard and fast rules. And are they, like you said before, are they out of their past relationship for 6 months to a year? Or how many dates have you been on since you've been divorced? And a person that I had a discussion with last year, he had been divorced 2 years and he hadn't had a lot of dating experience, and he was feeling very, very vulnerable about it. And like, there just isn't a lot of women around here, and so I haven't really dated. And he's like looked at online dating, and he's like, because he's in a smaller town not far from here in Brisbane, and he's like, yeah, it got really hard really fast, because with the process of elimination with one, people that you don't find attractive, two, people that are mutual things, and then started seeing like parents at the school, and he's like, oh, okay, I can't. Like, all right, I just need to not be doing that. And there's ways that you can figure out how this works for you and what you're okay with. So what he ended up doing was broadening his travel, how far he was willing to go to meet the person that felt right to him.
I think you brought up a good point early on there about a huge complaint I hear is like, I don't have time for all these dates. So women are like trying to weed these men out before they even get to the date. And I have the opposite perspective of like, I might not choose my words the best here. I want to get on as many dates as possible, because for me, it's the in-person part that helps me figure out. And I also want to date as long as possible, because I know that in the long run, there's going to be good and bad things about the person that I'm with. So I can't, when I'm in the dating process, as soon as I hear one bad thing, I can't just be like, oh, well, you're not the person for me. Of course, you have your own standards, deal breakers, those sort of things. And that's okay if something comes up. Like, if you're super hippie, totally nonviolent, and this person comes in and they're like an avid hunter and they want to put dead animals on the wall, I mean, okay, go ahead. Like, let's exit stage left, please. But in general, like, I think we go into it with the wrong perspective because so many of us go into it weeding people out instead of trying to connect and trying to communicate. Also, for me, going on a date doesn't feel like a waste of time because I am practicing so much when I'm on that date. I'm practicing my communication skills, I'm practicing my confidence because no matter how confident I've already become, there's always something that happens in the process that makes me feel a little bit like I just want to shrink, a little bit like I want to be meek and mild and sort of whatever. So I have to remind myself. And one of these examples would be that date that I told you I went on over the weekend. I really wanted to wear this super cute crop top with these jeans, but I knew, okay, we're going for pie. As soon as I sit down, all my rolls are going to be out. And then I thought, well, what the Sarah? Like, everybody's belly rolls when they sit down. He knows you have children. Like, if he's ever going to see you naked, he needs to know, well, not needs to know, but he's going to know that your body does this when you sit and move in different directions. So, you know what? Like, if he's going to look at that while you're eating pie and be like, oh my God, I can't believe she'd wear that in public, he's not the right person for me because I would wear it in public if I was with friends or if I was in a long term relationship or if I was with my family. So I decided to wear it. But I had to keep talking to myself in that inner dialogue because there were different points. Like when he first walked in, I was like, like, ooh, he's gonna see my full body. And then like when I got up to go to the bathroom and I had the mark across my stomach from where my jeans had been digging in when I was sitting down, and I had to walk across the restaurant. Like it's those things. So I'm constantly working on myself through that, myself. But then there's also working on communication skills with the other person, like I said, practicing having natural conversation uh, instead of interviewing, practicing being okay with the silence because there's going to be moments where it gets silent. And what do? Do you just sit there and smile and wait for him to start something else up? That's perfectly fine. You can let the heat be on him and just sit there. Or maybe you're someone who's just like, well, this is awkward because now we're sitting here in silence and I have no idea what to say next. And you just kind of speak through it. But you get comfortable with all those things. And all of those things not only help you bring in your next partner and all that stuff, it helps you everywhere in your life because you practice these communication skills. And now all of a sudden, when you're at an event for your children and you have to make small talk with the people around you, you know how to hold yourself. You know how to be more confident. You know how to start little conversations. You get more adept at looking for details that you can bring something up about, right? It helps you everywhere. So I personally think dating is great.
I think the silence is important because it shows you just their energetic presence. Like if you're on a coffee date or something,
That's a good point.
you get to experience what they're like. And a man will not be used to it because, especially if you're a talker like me, if you all of a sudden stop talking, sometimes they sort of freak out. But if you sit there and just like look at them like in a nice way because you're bringing love to the conversation, you're going to see how attracted he is to you. You're going to see if he's anxious or nervous. You're going to see and appreciate these subtle things that you wouldn't have noticed if you were talking. And he's going to feel seen because you are just staring him down and appreciating that. And if he feels awkward or uncomfortable and he speaks up, kudos to him. Or if he starts the conversation in another way because there's been like this breath in this space, it allows for something more natural to happen as opposed to like checking off the stuff off your checklist. It's an interesting, fascinating situation to sit in that silence when it happens and like to not keep needing to show up, keep having to, oh, I need to find out what his favorite color is, or I need to find out how he has his coffee because if we go on another date, I'm not going to know it. Fuck it. Go on another date and say, I don't remember what you ordered last time. Just you're concentrating on who he is as a person. His preferences may actually change. Like his coffee order and in your relationship may change to be just like yours because it became easier to have black coffee and he never knew it before he met you. So you never know. And that kind of detail is not as important. Like if he says to you it's really important that you remember coffee detail, whip out your phone, write it out as he tells you what it is. Save it for later. Like assume you can just write that down and say, look, I'm just going to write it down so I can remember, but I just want to be here with you. and watch him crumble. If he is into you, watch him melt and crumble and not know what to do, because all of a sudden he has wanted the spotlight to be on him, and you have just like given him all the spotlights in the world, and it's from a woman that he really obviously wants something with. And just watch him just change into this like, oh,
I
like
just gave a guy a compliment today. We haven't actually met in person yet. We have something set up for later in the week, but we've been talking back and forth. And I sent him a message in the middle of the day, and he replied with a voice note, which I love, um, because it helps me like step closer to feeling into their energy and stuff. And I just said back to him, I said, "Thank you so much for being so polite with me." And he was just like taken aback by it. Like, he sent me an emoji and he's like, "You're welcome. I'm just being me." Like, you could just tell that he was like, "I don't know what to do with this. People don't usually compliment me on that." But it was true because, and I'm sure other women listening can relate to this, when you're out there dating, there's a certain group of men that are going to just reduce you to your physical appearance and how quickly they can do something physical with you. And it gets really old. It gets really old and discouraging. And so I had been talking to this guy, and things were going well. And like 3 times now, he's thrown out. I can tell they're feelers. They're feelers to see if he can go any further. And like the thing that really hit me today was he sent me a shower picture, not full body, but I could tell, like, because I was the one who brought up showers, and I didn't mean, it was totally innocent. I was like, "I am busy. I got to hop in the shower so I can get ready because I'm about to record for YouTube." So it wasn't like, "Hey, I'm going to be getting in the shower and thinking about you," or something weird. Weird. That was judgy, wasn't it? But you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't trying to pull anything out of him. And he says, "Oh, I'm about to get in the shower too. Something about, I'd love for you to wash my back, blah, blah, whatever." And he starts to take it to another level. So I just said to him, "Enjoy, period." And I didn't really address it too much. But then he sent me a picture. And I was like, "Okay, you're feeling me out because basically you're sending me the picture to see if I'll send you a picture back of me in the shower. And it's not going to happen, you know?" And so I was just kind of grumpy about it. And since this other guy has been so polite to me the whole time, I gave him a compliment. And that's part of being magnetic in your feminine, because men are used to being criticized for what they're doing wrong, but they're not used to being praised for what they do right. And they love it. I mean, I know sometimes it can feel like you're training a dog, and that sucks because they're definitely not a dog, but it's that positive reinforcement of
yeah,
like,
just
"Hey, I love this." And then they get so excited. "Oh, yes, she likes this." Actually, that brings up something. I think it was what I was going to try to say earlier. Um, with guys, actually, all people might do this. I don't know. But guys will commonly bring this up as I'm in the dating process. "So, what are you looking for?" I don't
mhm.
answer that question because I did answer that question in the beginning. I don't answer that question anymore because it basically tells them who to be if they want to get to you. And they will be that person until they get what they want from you. There's probably, a small amount of guys out there who are like, "No, I genuinely want to know because if I match that, great, we're going to work out, and I'll do what you want." But that's not the majority. And I had someone ask me that recently, and he didn't know what I did for a living, so I thought it was time to share. And I was like, I coach on dating and relationships for a living, and we're really not supposed to answer that question. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "I would rather just get to know you through the course of a relationship and really see who you are. That way it's something that can be maintained." And he's like, "Oh, I get it." He's probably like, "Shit, never realized that before." But it's a tricky question because it comes off as innocent, and you want to feel seen and heard. So as soon as they're asking about you, like, your instinct is to answer it like, "I want this, this, and this," because then you might receive it, right? But it doesn't put you in a good place. Again, it's much better to take that deep breath like we were talking about earlier, where we were saying try not to get into the interview process and just be like, That's one of those questions that's trying to jump 2 to 3 steps ahead instead of just being in the process and getting to know each other naturally. Well, does this feel, this feels like a natural break. How about that? I wonder if we should, if you're watching and you're enjoying this, let us know, like the video, comment below. Let us know if you have more about online dating that you'd be interested in hearing about. If there's something maybe that challenges you or something that scares you, intimidates you, that we can address, because we've both had quite a bit of experience, like I said, either online dating for ourselves or helping other people with the process. So we're happy to share more. It's a huge subject and a lot of people do it, although not too many people are comfortable with it. A lot of people like default to it because they're like struggling to meet people naturally. And I honestly, I love online dating. I think it can be really fun, but it's not something I do 100% of the time. And maybe that's something we should talk about in a future episode, is like how to enjoy the process of online dating. What boundaries can you set or standards can you set for yourself so that it is fun and it doesn't feel like a job? Because it can be really overwhelming and feel like a job. Well, thank you so much today, Hayley. We'll go ahead and end here and we'll talk